This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks NYC. I have the pleasure of having Sam Miller, CEO and founder of Proteus Motion. We're going to talk about resistance training. We're going to talk about becoming or staying an elite athlete. And we're going to go touch on innovations in the industry. So, Sam, welcome to your first Halo Talks.
Thanks, Pete. Great to be here.
Awesome. So, look, there's been a lot of revolution in strength training. You know, it kind of comes and goes. I think we're actually here to stay, where if you're not working out and you're not building your muscles, you know, good luck taking care of your frame. So talk about how you got into the industry, you know, what you've done on technology side, and we'll kind of riff from there.
Yeah, sure. So I think what's really interesting about this entire space is a lot of the kind of advancements in technology that's happened in connected fitness and human performance space has been really focused on like digitizing an existing piece of equipment, right? So putting a sensor or screen on a bike or cable machine or something like that. And kind of our view is that is extremely limiting because of the limits and the type of information that can be pulled off that equipment and then delivered through software products into things that are actionable and kind of insights. And so there's kind of a battle for content. So what we've done is a different approach, which is create a new type of training equipment altogether. Start there and use that to kind of unlock information that's new. And what we're doing is we're kind of like an MRI for physical strength, right? So this is a revolutionary strength testing device that is dual purpose as a training tool. I'm an industry outsider, kind of like homeschooled in a sense, but I've been doing this for 6 or 7 years, amazingly. Very, very humble beginnings. And that's kind of grown and accelerated really in the last 2 years to where we are today.
So what was the impetus to have you kind of focus your career here and, you know, from an outsider to become an insider, seeing how we do things in this industry, which isn't necessarily best in class, you know, to start out?
I mean, it's still great. There's a lot of talent, a lot of great stuff, a lot of great technology. I think I kind of had a deep-seated experiences in physical therapy and training from a young, starting when I was 10 years old as a young athlete, in and out of physical therapy, a very painful condition in my knee and ankle. And I think I grew frustrated with a couple of things. One is we had really talented trainers and therapists, but they were limited by the types of tools that they were using. Specifically enabling them to use kind of objective data and easily to be able to personalize training programs for you. And so I remember going through physical therapy as a 10-year-old and, you know, alongside one of my close friends who had a very different condition they were recovering from. And we walked out of there with a sheet of paper that had exactly the same training plan on it.
Right.
And so I kind of had this like aha moment, that kind of progressed. And so I really had these like deep-seated frustrations, I think, throughout. At the same time,
what sports were you playing back in the day?
I played at literally every sport under the sun. My primary sports, though, at that age, were soccer for sure. That was actually throughout into high school and so forth. And
where did you grow up?
I grew up outside of Boston.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and I ended up going to Vanderbilt. Did not play soccer there. Was not at that level. So there were a lot of these like combined experiences. But I think the realization that was this, which is that, especially as this like quantified self movement started to really grow, I became interested in understanding like, hey, there's a real market and appetite for, you know, quantifiable information, especially around human performance. There's a huge gap though in physical strength data. And the way that we think about it is like, you think about there's, you know, 24/7 wearables have created a $30 billion sleep and recovery market. And MRIs and X-rays have created a $60 billion MSK market, right? Physical strength, what are we doing for measuring? It's like, how much can you squat or bench? And the realization that like, hey, we're kind of evaluating this critical pillar of human performance with like in one dimension is kind of like stunning to think about. The reason is like,
never really thought about that.
Yeah,
the NFL combine is your squats and your how many times you can bench press, right?
Totally, and like a squat is a really important movement. That's a really important, like that is important. But the issue is that like is really around the void of data. And like those movements in a straight line, like turns out that less than 5% of human movement is performed in a straight line. So what about rotation and twisting and turning? And, and in order to measure strength for those movements, you need forces in 3 dimensions. And that literally doesn't exist until Proteus. So you have to start with the exercise equipment. So that like realization actually inspired me to start Proteus. And the way that I started it was to take a mechanical concept for a machine that my dad invented at MIT in the early 90s. And he developed it in the basement of my house growing up. His whole kind of, he's this really brilliant engineer, or is a very brilliant engineer that didn't really have any kind of market vision for what he was doing, but he was trying to create a piece of equipment that allowed you to exercise without inertia. And he was trying to get 3-dimensional resistance for a different reason. He could only get 2-dimensional resistance. And then he kind of abandoned it after years. And I picked it up, redesigned it, created the 3rd dimension, patented that, and then figured out how to pull data off that into software products, patented that. And that was the beginning of Proteus. And so
when you guys get into like discussions or battles, is that like kind of like it ends when you say like, yeah, but I got to the 3rd dimension, and then everyone walks away?
I could throw that at him, but I don't think it's fair, because like what I'm doing wouldn't have been possible without what he's doing. So you know what I mean? Sure. So it was like we did not work together on this at all, but like we did in different decades in some ways and for different purposes. And so what we're doing is in a different stratosphere, but it's really interesting because like we've always struggled to communicate what Proteus is, because it's different on so many levels, and it's really a new category altogether. But like the beautiful thing that's made it really sticky for a much broader audience than this kind of like elite athlete crowd is this is not just a revolutionary strength testing device. It's a revolutionary resistance training tool.
Mm-hmm. And where are you finding the most market acceptance and interest, and what price point? Give us a little background on the actual product.
So we're in 43 states now, more than 150 installs, probably have that doubled by the end of the year, growing really, really fast and entirely organically. So like spending $0 on advertising or marketing. It's all word of mouth and, inbound sales. It's our primary client base, and our focus right now is in the sports performance and sports medicine categories. So basically we look at it as we're B2B. We are selling into businesses that provide services to competitive athletes. And that includes post-operative rehab all the way through peak performance, elite athlete training and everywhere in between. We have a real focus on baseball and golf as sports, specifically in the sports performance category. But in the physical therapy, sports medicine category, return to play, we have users that are between 8 years old and 88 years old. And it's some of them actually in wheelchairs. It's incredibly safe as a training tool. And we've also, it's incredibly effective. We've clinically proven that it produces 2 times more muscle activation than a free weight or a cable machine.
Impressive. Yeah. So ProteusMotion.com, if you want to see some of the videos on here, it's pretty unbelievable. What kind of data is that providing back in, or, any of the leagues or the, recruiters kind of putting people on here and basically saying like, yeah, we'll check your stats at the combine, but why don't you just hop on this Proteus for a second? Let me download a little bit of info and see what we really got underneath the hood.
Yes, it is becoming I would say, I'll put it this way. Our client base right now, almost every single one of them, if you walk in the door, one of the first things you do, if not the first thing you do, is you get a test on Proteus. And so it's so central to these businesses because what it is it's the data hub that informs how you should be training. So the bigger vision, of course, is that is we want to own this strength measurement category. Like what we intend this to become or transform into is a new universal standard for human performance, specifically around physical capabilities and physical strength. And we measure a lot more than strength and power. Everything from visualizations of power development in 3D space to range of motion, endurance, intensity, accelerate. Like we have more data than we even know what to do with right now.
Do you see an opportunity down in the future when you think about, experiential retail? And I was in a Dick's Sporting Goods the other day, and I was able to get what I needed. I used to be a soccer goalie, so I got some soccer stuff. I got some football, and then I went over to the strength and workout equipment area. And it was just, I felt like I was in like the back of a storage facility warehouse. Like there's no rhyme or reason to it. And I was thinking, we were doing some work with TRX at some point recently, and we're like, hey, why don't we do like a power rating here and have this experiential, or looking at your, having a Proteus there and be like, hey, look, come into Dick's, get your power rating. We'll give you a printout and we'll like get you on your road to wherever you want to go.
100%. So that's spot on. And we're actually doing, like, one of our earliest partners, the Hospital for Special Surgery in New York.
Sure.
They actually started as a kind of a collaborator and then turned into a customer, and then they actually turned into an investor. They are using Proteus and a 3D biomechanics measurement motion capture system for basically a musculoskeletal assessment and wellness product that is retail. And that combination is really, really, really powerful. And Proteus standalone provides, almost similar value, but we're going to start seeing that more and more. And just an interesting anecdote about how this data is used and why it's so powerful is we've basically patented the first and only way to measure strength and power for every human movement. We rolled that into a software product that delivers full body assessments in 3 minutes. And what we found from those reports, those strength reports, is that the majority, 56% of all the people that have tested, they should be training at light resistance and high speeds, not heavy resistance, because they're deficient in speed, not strength. And so doing programs that are kind of cookie cutter or traditional and foundational strength for the majority of those people is actually going to be detrimental for them. And so this is what you do and use to then inform what tools you should use to train. And one of those tools is Proteus, because from an experience standpoint, it's like it feels like moving underwater. And you can change the viscosity of the fluid, and it creates this incredible full body workout experience that fits into existing programs and other tools. And in some cases, it becomes the one and only tool that you use for training purposes, and it's incredibly powerful.
So when you take a look at the trainer communities, and whether they're inside of a gym, whether it's online, whether it's private studios, so on and so forth, how do you get the message and this kind of education into their hands? And how do you say, look, I know the way you've been doing it, and you think you know everything about the body and can assess somebody like the guy at Men's Warehouse who's like, you're a 44 long. I'm like, how do you know? He's like, well, that's my job. I get it. So how do you get people to say, hey, look, trust me, this is going to get your clients way more results. You're going to be a lot smarter about the body, and don't just continue to kind of freewheel this.
Yeah. Great question. Something we've struggled with early on, but now I think we've kind of figured out, which is that what we're doing right now, we're actually developing this and focusing our efforts right now on empowering the trainer. And so this is a tool that it gives trainers superpowers to diagnose issues, to validate results, right? Mm-hmm. We know these are really talented trainers. We know that they believe and probably do produce great results. We'll prove it for you, right? This will literally show you. And then making more informed decisions. It's for designing training programs, which is for next level personalization, and you get better buy-in, you get better results. And we're doing some pretty exciting pilots. I can't say with whom, for a large commercial gym right now, which is basically using this on the assessment side starting, and it's incredible. It's been incredibly powerful. So this is on the road to being what we believe will be a universal standard. It's a long path, long journey to get there. Education is a big part of it. We've relied on kind of having the right partners with real credibility and influence in the space to have actual authentic buy-in, which has taken a couple of years, but we've got incredible buy-in. And now we're starting to work on and soon to roll out a kind of an education or trainer certification program, because we've got a network of incredible trainers across the country. Many of them are like Proteus black belts, right? And it's like leveraging that to amplify the education.
Just as an idea, there's groups like ISSA, NESM, Lionel University. Some of these groups are trying to find more certification programs to add to their curriculum, if they will. So you might want to not just have it on a standalone basis, but there might be partners that would distribute that as well, or ACE. So we're happy to be helpful in those. One question on the commercial gym side. How much does the product cost? And you only typically need to buy one in a club, or do you have multi machines in a location?
It's funny. We have had like one of the common objections that we've had in the sales process, and not so much right now, but it has historically been, this thing is way too big, right? And it's actually not. It's smaller footprint than a large commercial treadmill, and then a smaller operational footprint than a cable machine. I think the versatility of it has made it like literally one of the most frequently used pieces of equipment in any of these facilities, where we see anywhere from 200 to 1,000 sessions done per month. We've got a lot of sites. It's like all day long, every day, because it's so versatile.
And it's all centralized coming back up to you.
Yeah. And what we found is like, we've got businesses that have grown their like testing or assessment services 400% off of Proteus. And in doing so, they've also increased their prices on those assessments by 23%.
There used to be a machine that people were using. It was only in a couple of clubs that I saw it, but you basically just did 3 squats, and then it sent back data to you on, how incorrectly you did them, that would lead to a personal training session. To me, it sounds like you're doing like the equivalent of, LabCorp, if you will, on like a full body scan. Is that kind of a good analogy?
It's a full body physical strength scan that you can do in 3 minutes. And it's like, squat's great, to know and measure, but it's like, I struggle to understand how the squat translates to most of the things you do in everyday life. It's very important. It's foundational. But we care about rotation and moving through 3 dimensions because we live in a 3-dimensional world. So that's really what we're running with here. And on the pricing side of things, we actually have a deal right now that we've got a third-party financing partner. So there's some great offers right now, but a lot of businesses that are credit approved can basically third-party financing $0 down and a very, very low monthly payment, as low as, under sub $500 a month. So with no money down. So it's pretty, and when you start to think about the ROI that comes along with Proteus, the marketability, the retention, the incredibly excited member base, and the results, of course, it kind of becomes a no-brainer. So we've had early days customers that were like hesitant about even buying one, and it was like early adopters. And some of them have now, purchased up to 3 machines. Mm-hmm. So it's really becoming a staple at a lot of these sites, and we've got enough of like kind of broader market exposure and experience to understand, or at least be able to see and connect the dots of like, we know where this is heading and how this is going to expand, but the path to go from just sports performance, sports medicine to commercial fitness that's not a straight line. And so we're playing that, very carefully and methodically.
And then the last question I have is there a content component to this, where if I'm on the machine, I saw that there's some screens that are capturing data, but are you also doing, where if I got a high-end club or a gym, I can actually do a workout through your platform and trainers?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've got the software has it's a 27-inch touchscreen monitor that's attached to each machine. You can mount it on either side of the machine. And the software has 3 modes. So you can just walk up. There's a freestyle mode, which is basically like hitting quick start on a treadmill, set a resistance, and do whatever. And it'll give you a power reading and a velocity reading, stuff like that. They're very basic. Then there's a workouts mode that's like structured. So you can do warm-ups, cool-downs, HIIT programs, sports-specific workouts, and you follow along to a video of someone working out on Proteus. it's all time based. And you set a resistance, and we've done some challenges. We've got a great, the Helicopter is one of my favorites, or Quadzilla. It's a good one. It's like full body workouts in 3, 4, 5 minutes. It feels like you're fighting through quicksand. It's incredible. And then we've got the performance testing, which is a third component, and that is like the deep data. And that's structured tests that we've developed with our partners. Some of them are some of the world's best trainers across all major sports that create what we call like power reports. And those are like, in 3 minutes, you get an actual, it can be printed actually physically, but it's all digital, of course. And that's where you can go into the many, many layers of depth about Proteus data. And you got a lot of people trying to figure things out and trying to explore, but on the surface, it's really, you get these insights that tells you where you fall in the strength speed spectrum, right? What types of movements you should be doing, where you're low strength, where you're speed dominant, where you're high strength, and then recommendations. And that feature is actually new features launching at the end of September.
Nice. So you've been a entrepreneur, picked up on 2D to 3D. Give us a business quote or a personal quote that's kind of kept you, driven and seeing through some crazy times on having equipment, through a pandemic, nonetheless.
Yeah. Just put me on the spot for a quote. All right, here's a good one. That one that I love. Somewhat motivational, I think. I love this quote. Sometimes when you think you've been buried, you've actually been planted.
I like that.
Use that one internally a little bit, but I think the way that I think that relates to our journey is more around like a barometer of progress for me has always been like my tolerance for new levels of hard, right? So, I laugh like looking back at the things I used to think were challenges, because now the stakes are so much higher, challenges are more complex, highs get higher, lows get lower. But I just believe like if you are really committed and fully believe in your vision, you've got a big ambition, there's nothing that you will let get in your way. And I truly deeply believe that. And we've stuck to our vision through and through. It's been a long journey already. And I feel like it's like day one every day. So just getting started.
All right. Well, you're officially planted in the Halo sector. So we will check in with you. We'll get all the show notes up there. Let's get some of these machines into some of our, high-end athlete centers and maybe some of these franchise groups, and look forward to testing my power rating.
I love it. Would love to do it, Pete. Thank you so much.